right, welcome back to TobattoVision, and right now we are doing another ranking video, and we are ranking the kills of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Now, I'm not ranking these individually. Maybe I'll do that tier list next year, but right now I'm going to sort of consolidate all the respective kills in every subsequent film and every respective Chainsaw movie, and put them in place of what movies had the best kills to what movies had the least best kills, however you say that properly. So I think we'll start with the first film. The first film is iconic. It's one of the scariest movies ever made, but you don't really see a lot of blood and guts in that movie. But the kills still seem grim and grisly and in your face and terrifying, because they are, but you just don't see a lot of gore on screen. So the argument is, am I ranking based on only gore and violence, or am I ranking on the impact? So I think I'm ranking these on impact as well as gore, gross out, shock value, all that stuff. I'm just going to rank these as I feel they should be. So with the first movie, Kirk getting his head smashed in, Jerry getting his head smashed in, Pam being hung on a hook, Franklin being chainsawed in the woods, and in a very elongated chainsaw death, all that stuff. Again, you don't really see a lot of this firsthand on screen, but the impact you really feel. It really feels grisly and visceral. So with that said, I'm going to put the kills in Chainsaw Gold because it really has such a violent tone. You really feel like you're watching an absolute bloodbath, which is the magic of cinema. But absolutely Chainsaw Gold. Again, not because it's the goriest film in the world, but because the deaths are so frightening, scary, grisly, and they really resonate with you long after you've seen the film. That's why it's in Chainsaw Gold, not because they're the goriest deaths on the planet. But moving on to part two, aside from the absolute circus of a film it is, and I love every second of it, the kills are abstract, the kills are carnival, circus-esque, I guess you could say. They're extremely weird. The deaths in that film. The gore and gross out is on another level. It's effects heavy, it's gore heavy, it's blood heavy, it's completely disgusting in every way possible. I love part two's effects. It's absolutely bonkers, especially the kills. There's not even that many kills in part two. I mean, it's sort of like the first film. There's only a handful. You know, you got the two guys in the car who get killed. One of them's killed off screen, but one of them gets his head chainsawed half off. You see blood spurting out of his head. LG gets his brains bashed in. He gets skinned alive. He dies again from, I guess from the elements and being skinned alive, basically in head trauma. You see Leatherface get a chainsaw through his guts. He's got intestines hanging out. It's gnarly. And again, so there's really not a lot of deaths. LG technically explodes along with the cook, along with Leatherface, but those are off screen. You just see the explosion. But we see Chop Top. He gets his own stomach gets chainsawed open by Stretch. I mean, it's gnarly. It's gnarly. So the minimal stuff you do see as far as kills go, besides the overall gore and gross out, still Chainsaw Gold. Unapologetically. Now, when it comes to Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, that body pit scene is enough. Would be enough for me to put it in Chainsaw Gold just on that value. But since we're ranking the kills and consolidating the kills for every film, I can't just rank it on that gore. I got to rank it on the kills. We see the chick at the beginning in the prologue. She gets her face bashed in with a hammer, but you see that off screen, and then you see the effects afterwards. It's not that impactful or gross in and of itself. But we see Homeboy get caught in a bear trap. We see him get strung up in the house. They use a hammer. He gets hit in the head with a hammer after he's hanging upside down. That's pretty gnarly. We see Tex get lit on fire and burned alive. That's gnarly. The mom gets shot in the shootout. We see the sister of the girl who was killed in the prologue. She gets chainsawed to death in the woods. And the hitchhiker gets blown away by a shotgun at the end of the film. The problem is, a lot of these things don't really feel impactful, and you don't really see a whole lot of gore and gross out. So I mean, you feel the deaths in the story. It makes sense for the story, but like you just don't see a lot. Thanks to the MPAA and cuts and just... They don't feel watered down. Like, I'm not distracted by the lack of gore or the lack of resonating, impactful violence on screen, up close and personal. It just sort of... It strays away from showing too much of the visceral violence on screen. But it still works. So with that, I'm going to say the kills in Part 3 are decent at best. I love the movie, but the kills are decent at best. Moving on to Part 4. Part 4 is an absolute snooze fest for me. You guys have heard me on record many times. I'm not a huge fan of that film at all. There's not a whole lot of kills in this movie. The chick gets lit on fire. The guy gets run over by a pickup truck. I forget the rest. Leatherface gets hit by a damn airplane, but none of it's really impactful, or it's just... not to skimp over this one, but the kills in this film, like everything else, are just meh. I would almost put it here, but they're not that bad. I'm going to put it in meh. It's meh. It's one of the nicest things I've ever said about the new generation. So moving on to the 2003 film, epic remake, stands on its own, really. The chick blowing her head off in the van is absolutely insane. What is his name? Kemper's death, or not Kemper. Is it Kemper? Yeah, Kemper's death is gnarly. He gets hit in the back with the hammer. He gets his face cut off, all that stuff. It's gnarly. Homeboy gets hung up on the piano. She has to stab him in order to mercy kill him, basically. The other dude, Morgan, gets hung up on the chandelier and chainsawed from the groin up, split in half, basically. It's just a gnarly movie. The kills are really, really good. You really feel them. It's not too much. No, that's not a lie. There's a lot of visceral violence on screen, up close and personal, especially like the piano death with she has to stab him to mercy kill him. Like, it's gnarly. I'm gonna put 2003's kills in Chainsaw Gold. Absolutely. And the same will go with the 2006 prequel, especially that movie. The hammer murder at the beginning where Leatherface beats the guy to death with a hammer. The biker gets blown away by Arlie Ermy with a shotgun. Homeboy gets his arms and wrists nailed down to the table, and then he gets chainsawed through the middle and gets his face skinned off. The other guy gets chainsawed through the back. The main girl gets chainsawed through the back in the damn car. The other girl gets her teeth bashed out and then her throat slit at the table. The other biker gets chainsawed in half. I mean, there's some really gnarly deaths in Part 6. It's probably more visceral than 2003, to be honest, as far as its impact goes. Moving on to Texas Chainsaw 3D. The deaths in that movie work. They were nothing to really write home about, but they were cool. They were very quick. The chef guy, his death was pretty elongated. But everybody else, it wasn't too drug out. I'm going to put those in decent. I think they belong in decent at best. Again, nothing to write home about, but on par with probably Part 3 as far as what they show and what they don't show. There's some gore and gross out more so than Part 3 in certain ways, but I think decent is where 3D should live. And moving on to Leatherface, you have the chick at the diner getting her head blown off. The Bonnie and Clyde characters go out in a pretty gnarly fashion. The big guy who you think is Leatherface before they did that cop-out, fake-out thing in the movie, that that stupid plot beat, he gets his head blown off. The chick at the beginning of the film falls into that trap and lands in all the equipment. It's pretty gnarly. So I'm going to say that Leatherface's kills are at least pretty damn awesome. I think they're pretty good. There's like the nurses in the asylum getting her head like fried by the damn electroshock therapy thing. It's pretty gnarly. And last but not least, we're on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 film, in which the deaths are pretty, what happens? The chick gets stabbed to death by glass, I believe, or she gets strangled maybe in the car. Whatever it is, she goes out pretty. It's a pretty slow scene. The cop in the car with her, who's still alive behind the driver's seat, he gets killed pretty nasty in a elongated scene as well. The chick's sister gets her head cut off. Everybody on the bus gets massacred. I'm not a huge fan of that film, but the kills are pretty good. The bus scene a lot of people would say is Chainsaw Gold, but to me it's a bloodbath, but it's not like a particularly, oh my god, that was awesome bloodbath. It was just a bloodbath for the sake of the bloodbath. So in my old man ways, because I'm old and folded and grouchy and grumpy, I'm not gonna put it in Chainsaw Gold. I'll put it in Pretty Damn Awesome. So there's my list. As you can see, it's beautiful, it's proper. This is the rankings of all the kills in the franchise. Which movies had the best kills compared to which movies had the least best kills. So let's rack them up. I'm going to put everything on this line here, the Chainsaw Gold. So disregard the Chainsaw Gold. I'm going to put them from least to best. So the worst, I think, is New Generation for sure. Followed by... I'm going to say followed by Leatherface. Followed by 3D. Followed by Texas Chainsaw 3. Or Leatherface, excuse me. Then Leatherface, or Part 3 Leatherface, then Leatherface 2017. I'm going to put Texas Chainsaw 2022. I guess I'll put it above Leatherface. That makes more sense. I'm going to put the beginning at the front. Part 1 at 2, Part 2 at 3, and then Reboot at 4. Yeah, there's a list. From best to worst. And this is like which movies I think have the most impactful, best, goriest, craziest kills consolidated. The beginning, original, Part 2, 2003 remake, 2022 requel, 2017 prequel, Part 3, 3D, 4. And there it is. I think that's a pretty good list, all things considering. So where would you guys put this ranking? And let me know in the comments below if your list would match mine or if you would have a different arrangement of these. And I will see you guys next time.